Welcome back, focused learners. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating explainer based on Ryuho Okawa's book, The Unhappiness Syndrome. Specifically, we're going to unpack Chapter 3, which takes a deep analytical look at the psychological patterns of women and family dynamics. If you love dissecting how our internal mindsets literally shape our external reality, well, you're absolutely in the right place. Let's get started. So, the text opens with this highly provocative core premise. Are you unconsciously in love with unhappiness? I know, it sounds a bit wild, right? But the author argues that a lot of people actually fall into these repeated patterns of misery without even realizing it. Why? Simply because they constantly expect others to change, rather than looking inward and reflecting on their own expectations. It's a bold claim for sure, and it really sets the stage for everything we're about to explore today. Okay, let's dive into this. We'll look at the syndrome through the lens of family life cycle, covering 1. Pragmatic marriage, 2. Spousal affection, 3. Mothers-in-law, 4. Parenting and rebellion, and finally, 5. The housewife as healer.
Section 1. Pragmatic marriage. Letting go of destiny.
We're starting right at the beginning of the domestic life cycle. For women who might be struggling to find a marriage partner because their expectations are, well, a bit too high, the author introduces a really striking metaphor. Treat marriage hunting exactly like job hunting. The text advises letting go of past attachments and this romanticized idea of a destined red thread. Instead, you want to look for a practical alignment of mutual needs, honestly, just like an employer and an employee, to secure substantive, long-term happiness. The text actually offers some incredibly blunt advice for past romantic failures. It says, don't sit around warming a disaster egg by brooding over rejections. I mean, what a vividly brilliant phrase. Think about it. If a job interview doesn't work out, you don't just give up on having a career entirely, do you? No! You accept that the needs simply didn't align, and you move on to the next opportunity. The author urges readers to apply this exact same practical resilience to marriage. Section 2. Spousal affection, shifting expectations. Moving right along the timeline to a secured marriage, the text tackles a super common post-honeymoon grievance, a husband's lack of affection. So how exactly does the unhappiness syndrome manifest here? Well, the source frames it directly, stating that simply demanding love is just a childish approach. By expecting your husband to automatically provide affection on demand, you're falling right back into that trap of expecting the external world to change, instead of looking at your own actions. The proposed solution requires a total shift in perspective. Instead of passively demanding affection, the text suggests a much more active approach. Try to understand your husband's position and ask yourself how you can act as an attractive, charming partner. The core takeaway here is really all about regaining your agency. Instead of complaining about a lack of love, the text advises actively creating an environment where affection just naturally flourishes. Section 3. Mothers-in-law, a mirror of the future. Now this brings us to a notoriously exhausting domestic grievance, dealing with a mother-in-law. To reframe this whole dynamic, the author makes a really fascinating statistical assertion. They say that 70 to 80% of a husband's traits are inherited directly from his parents. So, the logic naturally follows that rejecting your mother-in-law essentially means you're rejecting 70 to 80% of the very man you chose to marry. It's a pretty powerful way to completely recontextualize that relationship, don't you think?
And this brilliantly illustrates 3 specific mindset shifts according to the text. First, treat her with genuine humility. Second, recognize her not as some sort of rival, but as the ultimate benefactor who actually raised the husband you love. And third, view her as a reflection of your own future self. By shifting from a place of hostility to one of empathy and respect, you essentially neutralize that domestic tension.
Section 4. Parenting and rebellion, the trap of forced values. As we advance to the stage of raising children, the text addresses mothers who might be stressed out over their kids' poor academic performance or rebellious behavior. The author uses a very blunt agricultural metaphor here. If the seeds in the field are bad, the crop won't be that good. Basically meaning parents who weren't exactly top-tier students themselves probably shouldn't turn around and force unjustly high academic expectations onto their kids. It just creates an environment of hypocrisy and unfair pressure. Let's move to and see how this builds into deeper domestic issues. The book lays out a very clear chain reaction. Forced parental values make children feel unjustly pressured. Then that pressure inevitably boils over into rebellion, and in severe cases, even domestic violence. The resolution? Parents absolutely must stop trying to force the child to change. Instead, they need to correct their own behavior, respect their children as independent souls, and raise them to be self-reliant by actually leading by example.
Section 5. The Housewife as Healer. Embracing the Role.
Our final life cycle stage addresses a really difficult reality. What happens when a family member falls ill? According to the text, a super common symptom of the unhappiness syndrome here is feeling resentful or burdened by caregiving. The proposed solution is to reframe the housewife's identity entirely. Accept the role of family doctor and nurse. View health management and caring for the sick not as some unfair burden, but as a professional core duty of running the household. The specific advice here from the book is profound in its simplicity. It says to approach the care of the sick with love rather than resentment. By actively embracing this healer role with a real sense of purpose, the individual breaks free from the cycle of self-pity and effectively resolves the syndrome. So the crucial point is that all of these diverse domestic scenarios, from struggling to find a marriage partner, to dealing with rebellious kids, to nursing a sick relative, they're all connected by a single thread. They all trace right back to the main premise of the book, the absolute necessity of shifting your own mindset before you ever start demanding change from the world around you. This brings us to a foundational quote right from the beginning of the text. To escape from unhappiness, you must first become aware of your own patterns. The author places the ultimate responsibility for familial and personal happiness squarely on the individual's shoulders. It is only through rigorous inward reflection and a real willingness to adapt our own behavior that we can finally break the cycle. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Think about a current frustration in your own life or your own relationships. How might shifting your own expectations, rather than just waiting for the other person or the situation to magically change, completely alter your reality? It's a challenging but incredibly empowering concept to take away from this explainer. Thank you so much for diving deep with me today, and as always, keep learning.